Hey everyone, Jake here for American Trucks, and in this video, we're taking a look at the K&N Dry-Flow Cold Air Intake fitting 2015 and newer 2.7 liter and 3.5 liter EcoBoost F-150s. If you're looking for an easy way to improve the drivability and response of your F-150 for a good price, then you've got to take a look at this setup from K&N. This is specifically designed to increase airflow versus your stock intake, which will make for a noticeable difference in the way your truck drives and responds. And it doesn't require any tuning either, making for an easy setup. K&N has long been one of the leaders in cold air intakes with good reason. Their intakes and filters are high quality, long-lasting pieces that provide noticeable improvements in overall drivability. The dry flow intake that we have here today is no exception. At the front end of the whole system, you get a heat shield. Now, while this isn't a fully enclosed box, you do get weather stripping to go around the outer edges and a good-sized heat shield to help keep that hot engine bay air off of the filter, which is what you want because cooler air is more dense, and more dense air means more power. And that feeds into the real star of the show, this gigantic high flow filter. Now, this is a dry filter, hence the name, meaning that there is no oil on the surface. Dry filters, since there's less stuff for the air to pass through, tend to flow better than oiled filters. So especially if your truck sees mostly street duty, this is going to be a great choice as it flows very well and removes a bit of complication. This one, as is the case for all of K&N's filters, can be cleaned and reused as well. Now, K&N claims you can go up to 50,000 miles between cleanings, but that will depend greatly on where you live and how you use your truck. Now, that big filter is going to feed the twin intake tubes. One is going to go to each turbo. So these are nice and smooth, unlike the accordion ones you sometimes find on stock setups. So these are going to flow better than stock and be able to take advantage of that extra air that the filter can pull in. So you should feel an increase in both power and responsiveness. The other thing you're going to notice with these is the sound. And I'm a fan of K&N's intakes because most of the time they include aluminum tubes like these, and the resonance they give is awesome. Now, on the EcoBoost engine, this really uncorks that turbo noise and gives you that classic blow-off valve type of sound. Now, these trucks are pretty muted from the factory, and this setup is really going to amplify the sound. It's still not all that obtrusive though, so when you're driving around town, it's going to be quiet, and when you bury the throttle, you get to hear all that sweet turbo goodness. Now, it is worth noting again that a tune is not required for this setup. You can just bolt it on and enjoy. However, as I always say with these sorts of things, if you want to maximize your power gains or the truck's potential with breather mods, a tune is going to be the way to go. The filter is made of a non-woven synthetic multi-layer media, and again, this is a dry design, so this is going to flow a lot of air and filter out a lot of stuff. The heat shield and the intake tubes are both made from aluminum. As you can see, the tubes are finished in this cool metallic gunmetal color scheme, while the heat shield is finished in a wrinkle black coating for some additional protection. So not only will this setup be durable, it's going to look great when you pop the hood too. Plus, it comes with all the clamps, connectors, and weather stripping you need to get it fitted, making for a pretty easy installation process. We'll talk more about that in a moment. When it comes to pricing, this one is going to be a bit of a bargain, coming in at about $450. That puts it on the more affordable side of the spectrum price-wise, but it doesn't mean that you're sacrificing on quality or functionality. So if you're looking for something that has a little bit of everything, a jack of all trades, if you will, that's not going to cost you a ton, this is a great choice for your build. Installation will come in at a 1 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and this is a bolt-on operation. Though it will require you to get down in there since you've got this intake tube you got attached to one of the turbos on the other side. Plan on the job taking you about 1 hour to complete, and you won't need anything more than some common hand tools to get it done because it doesn't require any additional modifications. Not much more I can say about it here, so with that, let's head on out to the install bay where we'll walk you through the process.
For this install, you will need an impact, an extension, 7 and 8 millimeter sockets, a pick, and a pair of angle cutters. What's up guys, today we're going to be doing an intake on our F-150, but before we get started, we're going to send you to watch a quick video on how to remove your factory setup, and we'll see you when you get back.
First thing we're going to do is remove our inlet tube, our airbox cover, and our air filter. To do that, we're going to loosen up a couple of clamps, remove a connection for our air temperature sensor, and then we can go ahead and get this out of the way. First thing we're going to do is disconnect our air temperature sensor connector right here behind the inlet tube. And to do that, we're just going to push in on the release lever and pull it straight back. Next thing we're going to do is loosen up this clamp here that goes to the inlet tube on the passenger side using our 7 millimeter socket. Now we can go ahead and disconnect the coolant hose right below that simply by pushing it out of the clip and just letting it hang there. Next thing we're going to do is loosen up this clamp here that goes to the driver's side turbo inlet. And unfortunately, it's a little difficult to get the camera in here to be able to see it because the screw itself is on the back side of this tube and it's on the bottom. So it's a little tough to see, but you use your 7mm socket as well and go ahead and loosen that clamp up. Now, once you've got that loose, we can go ahead and disconnect the airbox lid from the airbox. All right, now we're going to release these two clips here on the airbox lid simply by pushing them towards the front of the vehicle to release them. Once we've got that done, we can go ahead and just disconnect the hoses from the inlet tube here and go ahead and pull this out. Now we'll lift our air filter out. Now we can go ahead and remove this wiring harness here that's attached to the back of the airbox simply by pulling up on the clips and getting it out of the way.
Alrighty guys, welcome back. Now that we have our intake off, we can start installing our new system. So we're going to start with our new airbox skeleton frame here. That's going to go into the factory portion of the lower airbox, and it has little notches that are going to secure itself into the factory airbox. We'll line those up. So get these in place. It'll be a little bit tricky to get them in at first. Set that down. And then we'll secure these with our factory retainer clips. It might be a little bit of a pain to get in at first, to work them in. Now that we have our airbox frame in place, we can start installing our couplers. We're going to start with our lower intake tube. So we have one of our clamps on, and the larger end of the reducer is going to go onto the factory side of our intake tube. So we'll slide that into place. We'll get this on. Make sure that seats fully. We'll grab our 8mm socket and extension. Snug this down. Next, we can install our coupler onto our upper intake tube. Again, we've got our clamp. Slide this into position. Now this one's going to be a little bit tougher. Just have to work that around. Get that on. Get that clamp in position. We'll snug this one down. Next, we can install our intake tubes. We're going to start again with our lower intake. So we'll grab our clamp, slide that over our coupler. We're going to leave that loose. We're going to install our lower intake tube into our coupler. We're going to get that lined up with our air filter opening. Make sure that's fully seated. We're going to leave it loose for now. Next, we can grab our upper intake tube. Now before we install this, we're going to have to install the grommet for the intake air temp sensor. That's just going to get right in to its position. Make sure that gets seated. You can feel it from the backside. Make sure there's no pinch spots. We'll install that into our upper intake tube. This one you can slide into your airbox, bring it back over to your coupler. Don't want to forget your clamp. Once you get this in, you want to make sure it lines up as well with the air filter box. We'll get our clamp in position, but again, we're going to leave that loose. Now we can get our air filter in place. So we're going to slide it in We'll have to pull back on our intake tubes just a bit to get it to drop down. That's what we want. We'll line up our filter through the air box. And we're going to grab our clamps, get those in position first. May need to loosen them up just a bit. We'll do the same thing for our other one. Get this first one in position, get that into our filter. Again, we'll pull this back just enough to get our clamp through and onto our filter. You want to make sure your filter is fully seated against your air box. And we'll snug down our clamps with our 8mm socket and extension. And get the other side. Then we can come back and tighten down the rest of our clamps. Now we'll tighten down the rest of our clamps, again with our 8mm socket. Get our lower intake tube one, followed by our upper. Now we need to install our intake air temp sensor into our grommet that we put into our intake tube. To do that, we're gonna have to remove this O-ring, so we've got a pick. We'll very gently remove this. Set that aside. Now we're going to very gently push this into the grommet. Make sure it stays seated. It goes all the way in to that retainer that's on your temp sensor. Now we can install our weather stripping around our intake box. We're going to leave the top open because your filter is flush with the box there. We're just going to slide this into the channel along the upper portion of our little frame here. Now you can come all the way across the top of this, but your filter sits much better flush along with the box. We'll trim off this excess with our angle cutters. We'll set that on. Alrighty guys, that about wraps up our review and install of our K&N Dry Flow cold air intake for your 15 and newer 2.7 liter and 3.5 liter EcoBoost F-150s. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.